Hello classmates, Tom Janda here. This is my video challenge for Module 3.2, talking about formative assessment practice that I think is relevant to understand if students are achieving my learning objective in the technology-infused lesson. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is the technology lesson that I'm going to be doing here in a couple of weeks. I'm not in my own classroom, and I haven't done very many observations, so I have a limited background to draw on. So I'm going to talk about the lesson that I'm working on, that I'm going to be doing, and just briefly, I'm going to be in a living environment classroom, 9th and 10th grade, and the students are studying evolution and some of the concepts. Here's a simulation, one of 3 or 4 that we're going to be using, that lets them, they're almost games really, but they're very educational. This one focuses on just the idea of a changing environment. And advantageous traits are advantageous only within an environment. You have to define the environment. So without going into too much detail, this is a game that somebody created where there's creatures and they have rules, and they live, they die, they randomly generate mutations. That's the ones that are different colored. Right now, yellow is the organism that has the advantage because it's the same color as the background, and that's built in. I think they produce offspring at a faster rate. I think that might be the sole advantage. And the students can change the environment, which is the background. And now the rules say that the green ones have the advantage and the yellow ones don't anymore. So you can see how a population changes, and the students can see how populations change. I think this is really important because a lot of people think that an individual evolves and it's actually a population. And so this shows, the green ones, they better start reproducing if they're going to survive. Okay, without getting into the details of this too much, I want to talk about how will I know if the students are going to be getting it, really. So I think the formative assessment practice that's most relevant for this lesson is to develop a good questioning approach. Students will be on computers, working individually or in groups, and they'll be working on this and other simulations. Hopefully they'll get to all of them. They might find one that they really like and spend all the class on that one. Depends, what they can learn from which simulation. Hopefully they'll learn a little bit from each one and kind of synthesize all the information that they're getting. And naturally, most of you probably would be like me. You would be circulating the class, going to each student or group of students and asking them what they're learning, what they're having trouble with, what fantastic discoveries they're making. So developing a good questioning approach is my formative assessment practice that I'm going to focus on in this lesson. In the Macmillan book, I read that the average teacher asks 400 questions a day. I don't know where they get that. Maybe it's the average good teacher. That's a lot of questions. I hope too many of those questions are like, what are you doing? Or where's your homework? Hopefully they're more pertinent questions, but 400 questions a day seems like a lot. So I'm not going to ask that many questions in this lesson, but I'll be asking a lot of questions. And to develop a good questioning approach, I need to match the questions with the learning targets. That's also out of the Macmillan book. So my learning targets for this class are to understand how genetic diversity can help a population survive. So my questions will be geared towards that. I'm sure the students will have lots of questions about a lot of things, a lot of answers. So it's my goal, my responsibility to channel the discussions and my questioning approach back to my learning targets for the day. So I guess that's something that I hadn't thought about before. But going into a classroom or to a lesson like this, I'll have to write that down somewhere, maybe put it up on the board, and I can look back to it. Students can always look back to it. That can be in the forefront of our mind, our learning targets for the day, and our questions will mostly be geared towards that. Having said that, another important thing is to know your students. Somewhere in the reading and maybe in the discussions, people were talking about students getting off track a lot and how that takes up a lot of time for the teachers. And knowing your students will help you be most efficient with your questioning approach. That's part of your questioning approach. If you approach a student that is prone to go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, you have to be prepared for that. Do you want to even ask them a question at this time? Maybe you want to watch the student and wait for a time when he seems calm, wait for a time when he's engaged with the one of the simulations. Maybe get to him when he changes the environment and watch his eyes light up when he sees what's happening and he seems to be getting it. So knowing your students and timing, and asking 400 questions a day. Okay, so one more thing I want to add about technology, and this is a little bit, I think we died, a little bit of an aside, but I think as Empire State students, we all pay probably a technology fee and or an activity fee, which most of you probably think you don't use because you're doing everything at home. Well, here, if you're in Ithaca, I found this nice classroom that I'm able to use. I have it almost all day, every day, and I justify using it because I'm paying those fees. You see, I have everything that I need, a nice big computer, a room to myself, quiet space to do my video challenges so nobody's listening to me, and a computer that I can use. I don't have to fight with my children, kick them off of their Skyrim game so that I can do my homework. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.